Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah everyone. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalatu wassalam ala Rasulil Kareem. Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. So thank you everyone for joining us. It's been like long time coming. I know we announced this project quite a few months ago, but there has been a lot of activities, which had happened in the past few months or so, including going to the General Assembly, given that it's quite a bit of like $2.4 million project, we were signing up on behalf of MAPS. So we had to work out, get the approval from General Assembly, work with the CEDAR lawn, get all of our sort of, contracts and in place, do the closing, and afterwards also work on the contract for individual lot assignment and all of it. So I know you may have a lot of questions. Where are we in this process? Where are we going next? What are the kind of, individual action items you have to take as lot, owner who's signing off for that? So inshallah ta'ala, I would introduce, like Brother Khadir, Brother Asfar, our also, well, they will actually lead that discussion, but a lot of other people have worked in the background, including Junaid and our attorney. So inshallah, I will pass it on to Brother Khadir to take it from here.
Thank you so much, Brother Nasir. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thanks for taking time to attend this very important session. I think we'll cover Asfar. First of all, I would like to thank a few key people who really made it happen and brought the whole systematic way coming together. With all of this, there was a big support from Brother Weil and Brother Rafat, trying to get this particular project off the ground, plus all of you who diligently signed up. So we were more confident in closing this particular project. So Brother Asfar has graciously offered us to help through the process and thinking through all the things. Then we had Brother Ayman, who is our lawyer, who helped us framing the contract. Unfortunately, he's in Egypt, so he won't be in this particular call. But any questions that are there that we want to get answers, we will try to get the answers for that. So without much delay, I will give it to Brother Asfar, who will take us through what is next and where we are and how we are going to execute on this particular project. So Brother Asfar, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for joining in. As Brother Mahmoud said, I'm a community member and I saw this project come together. It's very exciting for the Muslims in Puget Sound area. And I volunteered some time to help the folks who are involved think through the process that's involved. And also I'm going to go over that today. And the goal of this session is twofold. One, to kind of give you an update as to where this project is. And the second, more importantly, how the overall process is going to work and the actions that you need to take. In the process, we're also I'm going to highlight some of the notables that are in the contract. I hope you've had a chance to read through the contract. If not, I would certainly recommend reading through the contract and all, because that's what you'll be signing. And as we get through this presentation, you'll have sort of an understanding of the moving parts that come together and why the contract is written the way that it is and why the process is the way that it is. As I go through, I'm sure there'll be questions that will be coming up. Please put them in the chat window. Just write your questions out, and once I'm done with going through the content in this presentation, we're going to go through those questions and either answer them here if we can, or take them away if you're not able to answer those questions and get the answers back to you. So with that, real quick, the overview. We have found this opportunity with Cedar Lawn, which is about a mile, less than a mile away from MAPS Redmond, to acquire the rights to 300 lots in the cemetery that are dedicated to Muslims in the Puget Sound area. MAPS had signed this contract with Cedar Lawn and is able to then reassign those rights to the community members who decide to purchase those rights. It did come through a substantial discount because of the volume that MAPS was able to negotiate. So it's certainly an advantage for us. And the thing that's not been said before, but I'll say it here, is if all 300 lots get acquired, the rights get acquired, we have an opportunity to take on more lots from Cedar Lawn. There is another party at the lawn, at Cedar Lawn, that's also acquiring lots. So when we were talking to them, they said, if you need more lots, then you need to come forward and let us know. Otherwise, we'll assign it to somebody else. So the reason I'm telling you that now is you are already on the project and committed to the project, but the word might not have gotten out. And it's super important to get that word out. So if there are other people who are interested, whether they're coming to MAPS regularly or not, they also have the opportunity to get onto this project. As I said, let me just forward through. I'm going to walk through some of the notable items on the contract, the payment options that exist, the process that's going to run behind the scenes, so you understand when somebody from MAPS comes and asks you a certain question, where they are in the process and so on, and what specific actions you need to take. And we'll keep time for Q&A at the end. So first of all, the most important thing to understand is there are actually 3 parties involved in this project. So on the right, you see the 3 parties listed. There is Cedar Lawn. I'm not sure whether you can see my my mouse pointer or not.
Yeah, we are able to see it. So yeah,
you're able to see it. Okay. So Cedar Lawn is the primary operator and owner of the cemetery. So this isn't a real estate acquisition contract, right? What we're getting is the rights to be buried there. So for that, a purchaser had to sign a contract with the landowner to acquire those rights. So MAPS is the purchaser in that case that has a contract with the owner, the cemetery owner, which is Cedar Lawn. And then with the contract that MAPS has with Cedar Lawn, MAPS is able to reassign those rights to our community member who come forward, who've either reserved it or decide to purchase those rights. So, and to make sure that when those rights are reassigned to the authorized user, which is people who are like yourselves who are acquiring those rights through MAPS, that MAPS has a contract with you that meets the requirements that the cemetery has of the purchaser. So the contract that you're signing has stipulations in there that came in with the purchasing contract and also apply to when the rights are assigned to whoever is buried there or their family, quote unquote, the authorized users in that case. So understanding these, like the 3 parties, is important as you purchase the rights. Even though you won't have to deal with the contract that Cedar Lawn has with MAPS, but it explains as to why the MAPS contract is written the way that it is. Some of the items to note in the contract. This is a project that's in development. The photo that you saw of the land is of the plat is an undeveloped land. Now that MAPS has signed the purchase contract, Cedar Lawn is developing that plat per the requirements that MAPS has given it to them. That's one of the reasons why the lot numbers are not assigned yet, because it's being designed. So once it's designed, then we will have the lot numbers and all that can be assigned and so on. The expected completion of the project is December 2023. That also means that the first interment or first burial can happen when the project is complete. So we're estimating that would be December of this year. Maybe sooner, but it kind of depends on how long it takes to develop and construction and so on. It is for MAPS members' personal and family use. So when you're acquiring the rights, the assumption is that you're acquiring the rights for yourselves or for your family, not to resell it to somebody else, because it's purchased at a discount for our community and so on, right? So it's important to understand that this isn't a investment project. It is really for the benefit of our community. The rights can be transferred once the lot is fully paid for. So it might be that at a certain point in time, you're deciding to move to a different location, or you decided otherwise, that you say, I had acquired the rights to this lot, but I don't need it anymore. I don't want it anymore. If the lot has been paid for fully, it can be transferred to another interested party. And we also expect, since this is a limited resource, only 300, that at a certain point in time, there will be other people who will be interested in acquiring a lot, and at that time, one might not be available. So then if somebody is looking to transfer that, they can actually transfer that at that time. It is assumed that would be at reasonable rates, market rates, but not considering it as an investment in that regard. That point is important because when MAPS negotiated with Cedar Lawn, and when Cedar Lawn gave MAPS the discount, it was important. They specifically asked that people are not acquiring it from an investment perspective, right? Because then it becomes sort of a conflict of interest in here for this. So important to note that. Cedar Lawn will only allow burials based on interment certificate issued by MAPS. So when you have acquired the rights to a lot and somebody has to be buried there, you will come to MAPS to get what's called an interment certificate. And Cedar Lawn expects that interment certificate to make sure that nobody else is kind of walking in and saying, I have that plot and I want to be buried over there. And once the burial is performed, the authorized users are going to be bound by the Cedar Lawn's regulations. So they have specific regulations in terms of what side of stone can be put on and so on. So the authorized users or the family, the individual being buried are bound with those regulations. And then as part of the contract, Cedar Lawn will manage and maintain the lots perpetually. So there isn't ongoing maintenance costs and all that. That's just part of this contract. It's once you've paid for it and somebody is buried, the grounds will be maintained and kept up and so on. So that's the contract that MAPS has with Cedar Lawn. Moving on, I'm going to talk about payments options, and I'm going to walk through this quickly so that we can get to your questions. So please remember to put your questions in as you're coming up, and we'll go through them. We'll walk through them. On payment options, there are 4 payment options. You can decide to pay in full. If you decide to pay in full, there is a $100 credit that comes through to you. There's also the advantage that when we do get the plat design and we have the lot numbers, folks who have paid in full will have the opportunity to select the lots. If they are interested in selecting specific lots, they will be given the opportunity to select them. Once people who have paid in full have either selected a lot or said they don't really care which lot it is, then it will be open to the remaining people who have signed a contract. So option number 1, pay in full, has that quote unquote advantage, if you will. The other 3 options are either paying in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, or 4 year terms. The last point I would make before I put the option forward is that there is a transfer fee. So when if you decide to transfer the lot to somebody else, there is a MAPS transfer fees. When it's time to inter somebody or bury somebody into a lot, since there is a transfer from MAPS to that authorized user, there is a $150 transfer fees that the Cedar Lawn will charge. So the details of the options are on the right on the screen. If you pay in full, it's $8,400 per lot. due at contract signing. If you decide to pay in 1 year's time, it's $670 per month per lot for 12 months. Total cost will come out to be $9,040. If you decide to pay in two years, it's $345 per month per lot for a total of $9,280. You decide to pay in 3 years, 36 months, $235 per month per lot, for total cost of $9,460 per lot, and 4 years, 48 monthly payments, $182 per month per lot, total cost of $9,736 per lot. Note that there is a $1,000 reservation per lot amount that will be due at contract signing. So I'm going to explain the process behind what's going on. And like I said earlier, it's important for you to understand. So when MAPS comes to you and saying, hey, I'm going to issue you the certificate, and now you're going to do something at this point in time, where you are in that process. So there are two things that are happening simultaneously. You have Cedar Lawn that has a contract with MAPS, which has been signed now in July. They are working on doing the site design. They're working on developing the site so that it's ready, and then they're going to signal to MAPS and saying it's ready to go. In the process, when the site design is completed, they will come out and say, okay, now we have the lots and the lot numbers. Here's the map for it. You can do whatever you want to do with the lot numbers, but when somebody is ready to be buried, we're going to ask you for a lot number and an interment certificate. So that information is important. That's the process that Cedar Lawn is running through. Then MAPS is running through a process with you all, where it offered the opportunity to reserve lots, which quite a few of you signed up to do. MAPS worked on signing the purchase contract with Cedar Lawn, which has been done. Now MAPS is working with you to sign a contract for these rights. When the site design gets completed, MAPS will work with you to do a lot assignment to say, hey, this lot, the rights to this lot belong to so-and-so authorized users and so on, so that when there is time to burial, you know which lot was assigned and so on, or your family knows, the right set of people knows. And then MAPS will work with you to get the rights to the lot fully paid for. And then at a certain point in time, an interment request comes. Interment is burial, by the way. So a burial request comes, and the right certificates get issued and all. So at the top level, these are the two processes that are running, right? So at a certain point in time, Cedar Lawn gets done with the site development, and now on an ongoing basis, they're doing burials. And then similarly at MAPS side, at a certain point in time, all the lots have been the contracts have been signed, the lots have been assigned, and then whenever there is a burial request, an interment certificate will get issued on an ongoing basis. So this the graphic here basically talks about the documents that you're going to see come through. So far you have seen a document called MAPS contract, right? That's what you sign with MAPS to have the rights to one of the lots. When you sign that contract and pay your dues, whether it's the full amount or the $1,000 plus the monthly installment, you will get a lot allocation certificate per lot, which basically says, hey, you have a right to have a lot allocated to you. Now, the reason for that is because we don't know the lot numbers right now, right? MAPS does not know the lot numbers because the design has not been done. So once the site design is complete, at that time, we would know what lots exist, what lot numbers are and all. So at that time, you will get a request to say, hey, can you select a lot, or let us know you're not interested in selecting a lot so we can assign you a lot number for the rights that you have purchased. And at that time, you're going to get the lot assignment certificate. Okay. So you're going to go through from a MAPS contract to a lot allocation certificate till we get the site design completed and the lot numbers. And then when that happens, Maps is going to ask you for the, hey, which lot? And at that time, when we know the lot number, you're going to get a lot assignment certificate. That lot assignment certificate is the important thing. That's the thing to hold, because it says that you have purchased rights to a specific lot or specific set of lots. Then when it comes time for burial, you or whoever is the family will come with that lot assignment certificate and saying, I have somebody who needs to be buried in this lot. Here's the lot assignment certificate. Can you issue me an interment certificate that I can take to Cedar Lawn? And Maps will give you the interment certificate at that time that can be given to Cedar Lawn, and Cedar Lawn will then proceed with the burial and all. And Maps will also call them to let them know that that's what's going on. The important thing to note is, if you haven't already gotten a reservation, and if you come sometime in October, say, and say, hey, I'm going to sign a contract at that time, if the site design is completed by then, the lot allocation certificate is not going to be needed, because we already know which lots are available and which lot can be assigned. So the lot allocation certificates are going to go away once the site design is complete. They're only there in the meantime, so that we know how many lots have been purchased, paid for, and so on. So on the left, you see basically things that I've already said. Let me just make sure. Yep, I think I've covered pretty much everything that's written in here on the slide. So going to the next, your specific action items are select a payment option. So decide whether you're going to pay in full or you're going to be on one of the monthly installment options. Maps needs to know that, because it needs to be written into the contract. So that'll be your first action, deciding on that. Once you've decided on that, either come to the Maps office between Monday and Friday, 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. To say, hey, I want to sign the contract. And with the payment option that you selected, that contract will get filled in, you sign it, you pay, you move on. If you don't want to do it in person, you can email manager@mapsredmond.org, telling them, hey, this is the payment option I want. They'll pre-fill the contract with your name and authorized users and all with the option that you selected, and send you a signable copy that you can digitally sign. And you can digitally sign that and send it back. Similarly, you can decide to pay with a check at the office, or pay online using a credit card. If you decide to pay using a credit card, note that the credit card fees will apply in this case, as is the case for any other payments at Maps. Once you've done that, you will receive the lot allotment certificate. And then when the design completes, you'll get requested to select lots, or say, I don't want to select a lot, just give me any, and you'll get a lot assignment done at that time, and a lot assignment certificate. And the next action is, when it's time for burial, forward the lot assignment certificate and request that interment. I'm going to underscore here that more than half the lots are already being called out for. So limited number of lots are remaining. If you have folks who are interested in the project and want to sign up, I'd encourage to share the word and all, because I think 300 lots are going to go fairly quickly. With that, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to go to chat, and we can start taking questions. I'm going to request Mahmoud, Nasir, Brother Abdul Salam. I'm going to, I guess, MC this. If there's a question that I can answer, I'll answer. If there's somebody else more appropriate, I'm going to defer to them.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to, I don't think you can see my screen as I am putting up the questions, but let me see if I can share that.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the same thing together. And sorry, I'm still kind of figuring out Zoom here, so bear with me for a sec.
On the side, as far with your picture, the questions are visible
Oh, there are?
on the side.
Okay.
So they
All
should
right,
be,
so
you
this-
just read it and we can go down.
Yep, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So scroll up, going down. I also said you should have used Teams.
No comment.
Microsoft will always try that. All right. Just for that, I think we're going to charge you as some marketing dollars here.
Yeah.
Next one from Tariq. Are all 300 slots already assigned? Not yet. Abdul Salam has answered. I believe about 160 or so have been.
Yeah. I think it is changing every day, but we are around that number, 160, 165. Latest, we don't know, but that's where we are.
Next one from Ayaz. For those who paid in advance, have lots been assigned already or waiting for contract to be signed? If there are more than one member, do they get lots assigned next to one another? Okay, so there are three questions in here. So I'm gonna parse this a little bit. Number one, for folks who have paid in advance, that means you have a lot. You don't have a lot assigned yet because the lots haven't been designed yet, right? So it's not that you have a lot number yet, but you have, because you paid a reservation, you already reserved and all, a lot will be held for you unless you don't sign a contract. If you don't sign a contract, then you won't have a lot remaining. And this is the call to action that if you want that, we will hold for you and please come and sign a contract. The next question, if there are more than one members, do they get lots assigned next to one another? Yeah, so that's a good question in here. In the contract, you will see two different dimensions come through. In the contract, you will say, this is the number of lots that you're acquiring and you're paying for that, right? So choose an example. Let's say somebody comes forward and says, I want 2 lots. So the contract will say that you have 2 lots. The schedule B in the contract will say, and this is the payment option. This is how much money you're paying. This is how much, advance you're paying and so on. You will also in the contract call out authorized users. You have an option to say authorized user per lot, or you can actually say authorized users more than the number of lots. And the reason for that is because if you're the authorized user, you gotta have other family members that can represent you in the case that, in the unfortunate case, if you're the one who's going to be interned, right? So in the contract, when you're requesting the contract, mention the authorized users that include the person who could be buried there, but other family members that have the authority to make a decision. Because when there is a lot assignment certificate, any of the authorized users that are listed on the contract would be able to come forward and say, here is the lot assignment certificate, we need internment done. So the third, so I hope, and if that's not clear, I can come back and try and explaining that again, just ask the question again. The third piece that I said, saw in the third part of the question that I saw come through is, can there be multiple members per lot? And the answer to that is yes, right? And they would show up as authorized users. So if you have only one lot, you should still mention more than one authorized user on that, right? So because we need to make sure that, like, somebody can come forward and say, I have the authority, I have the certificate to actually do the intern.
As for that one last question also, maybe you're attending, if there are more than one member, do they get lots assigned next to each other? I don't know whether you covered that. They would be.
Covered in part 2.
Part, okay.
So that was the case. If you have 2 lots,
Yeah.
the contract will say you have 2 lots.
Yeah.
Schedule A on the contract basically says who are the authorized users, and you'll have multiple authorized users listed. So it's not a one-to-one relationship in that case in the contract.
I think the question he was asking is assigned next to one another, like when you allocate the lot, like number one or two, one and two.
Physically.
Yeah, physically, yeah.
Yeah. So that's right. Okay. So sorry, I didn't catch that. If the question is, can people select lots
Correct. Yeah.
to be next to each other?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
As I described earlier in the process, if you have paid in full,
Correct.
you are in the first priority. When the site design is done, Maps will come to you and say, hey, site design is done, we need you to select lots. Here's the site map. It's first come, first serve at that time in that priority category, right? So you say, I want these two, I want lot number 100 and 101.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not designating who goes into which, but you have two that are designated. They could be next to each other, or you could decide and say, no, we want to be on two different corners. Your choice in that case. But you get to pick the lot, or you can say, I don't care, right? And in that case, Maps will assign a lot. What's gonna happen is a lot number will be defined, right? So that later on, there isn't a question in terms of which lot you have.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have a hard time answering questions if you verbalize them. You know, if you have a question, please just write it down. Even if it's a repeat question, that's fine. I'll come to it. Next question. I asked, what do you mean Maps members? Maps registered members? Why only for Maps members? Yeah, so I should be correct. It's the cemetery is for the benefit of actually no, I'm gonna defer that to Mahmood. I can answer the question, but I'd much rather have it come to Mahmood.
No, I think what it means is like we are doing it for our community. So all the people that are, you know, as a part of our community will get the first choice of doing this. But what it means by Maps members is, you know, after we exhaust our community people, then we'll open it up for anybody in the community to be, you know, to be able to get it. So it shouldn't be just limited to Maps registered members, because it's a Muslim cemetery. So we'll make it open for everybody after we, you know, make sure that our community gets chance to sign up.
Next one from Tariq. Does every plot will be assigned to a specific name of family member? So for a given set of plots, there will be a set of authorized users. So my direct answer to this question is it doesn't have to be that every plot will have assigned a specific name or family member. You can have a set of people who are identified as authorized users. They could be the person that's getting buried there, or there could be people who have the authority to show up with the lot assignment certificate and request an interment. Next one, question from Tariq. If someone needs to use before December 2023, can they? So the first burial can happen when the site has been completely developed. So if Cedar Lawn is able to get the site developed before December 2023, then yes. But their projection is December 2023. So if I change the question, say, can somebody be buried there before the full site has been developed? The answer is no. The full site has to be developed before the first burial can take place. And Brother Absalom answered that. From Ayaz, are these lots permanent once someone is buried, or do they get recycled after a certain number of years? Well, I'm not qualified to answer the question. My assumption is that
they are permanent. There is no concept of reburying in this particular assignment that we are doing with Cedar Lawn. So it's permanent. It is one, and there won't be multi, like in some cities in the United States, there is a multi-burial thing that's not here. So it's only assigned and it will be one person.
Next question from Tariq. for who reserved multiple plots will be guarantees plots would be next to each other. I think my direct answer is going to be only if in your priority order, you have that many lots available next to each other.
Yeah.
Right. So the way it's going to work is, let's say, so there are two priority categories. There is the people who have paid in full at contract signing. That's priority one, priority A, whichever you want to call it. And then the second priority is everybody who's got an installment. So when the site design is done, at that time, the first priority folks are going to be reached out to and say, hey, now the site design is available. Here's the map. Can you select the lots or tell us that we should assign a lot to you? At that time, it's going to be first come, first serve. So let's say if you have paid for 10 lots, and by the time you got back, there isn't a contiguous set of 10 lots available, then you're not going to have it next to each other. But if you got back to maps right away and said, I want these 10, and they're contiguous, then you have it. Right. So the guarantee is based on the priority category you're in, and when you respond back to maps when the request is made. Next question.
There is some background noise. If you can put on mute, whoever it is, just
Hit mute all for everybody.
yeah. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Next question from Nihal. Will there be any additional fees at the time of burial? So I touched upon that in my presentation earlier. There is a transfer fee, which I believe is $150 that Cedar Lawn is going to charge. There are other costs that are incurred at the time of burial that Cedar Lawn will assess based on what the what the current process is, what the current rates are, and all. So things like the tombstone and all kind of comes into it. And Mahmood, I'm going to defer to you.
Yeah, I think there are. This is a good question, Sister Nihal. This covers the grave, the concrete thing inside the grave that is going to go, and closing and opening of the grave. That's the price in this. When somebody passes away, there are additional costs that are associated with respect to the funeral home, with respect to the director that needs to certify. All of that will be depending on when it happens and what the time is, that is over and above this cost. So this cost covers the grave cost, the stones that are needed to bury the person in the grave, and opening and closing the grave.
All right. Next question from Ayaz. Are these prices shared now, subject to change later? Transfer fee, which is now $150. So, Mahmood, I believe I haven't seen the maps to Cedar Lawn contract, but I believe they're written down in the maps and Cedar Lawn.
That is written down in the contract. I mean, yeah, $150 is the transfer fee. If something after like 10 years, 15 years, I don't know if there is some revision to that, but right now it is specified amount is $150. So there shouldn't be any change on that. It's in the contract, $150.
Yeah, but we don't expect there are other transfer fees and all that,
No.
right? Because the contract is already done with.
Already done, yeah. There is nothing related to that.
Next question from Suraj. If I get in my name, but then need to use for my parents instead, is that considered transfer? So I'm going to have an opinion on it. We don't have Ayman on to answer the contract question. I believe when you request, so in this case, Siraj, you're going to be authorized user because you purchased the rights to the lot. So your name is going to be there. At the time that you request an interment, the interment certificate lists the name of the person who's going to be buried. So when you request the interment certificate, MAPS will ask the question, who is being buried there? And at that time, if it's a family member, it's subject to MAPS approval, but a family member can be buried. So in other words, the name of the person who's being buried does not have to be on the contract.
Yeah.
So that's my understanding of the contract.
Yeah.
So you don't have to a priori list your parents' name there. It's always easier if you did, right? Because then there is no question, there's no discussion. The authorized, your parents' name is on the authorized users list already, and saying this is the person who's already on the contract. That's what they're. So that's the easiest way to do it. But if that was not done, then at the interment time, that question will be asked, saying who is the person who's being buried and what's the relationship to the authorized user, and so on. Now there is the caveat there. MAPS will review and approve, because we want to avoid the situation that somebody decides to acquire rights and then decides to just give it to whoever, right? So there is a little bit of a control in here to make sure that it is for the community's benefit, and not acquired as an investment or for business and so on.
Price gouging or something.
Yeah, if I may add here, the most common scenario I can think of is that let's say we get it, and then God forbid, somebody in the friend circle or in the community cannot afford it, and then you may go ahead and let the other person use it, right? So that's the most common scenario.
Yeah, and that would be considered a transfer, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So just to be very specific, in that case, if you are saying that I have no relationship to this person, I'm deciding to just give my right to this person for fisabilillah, that per contract, that will be considered as a transfer, not a family member.
Yeah, $150 transfer fee and transfer in that name.
Right. Now, if MAPS decides to do that, with my understanding, MAPS might hold some lots for those cases. MAPS decides to do that. That's different because MAPS is the purchaser, can decide to make decisions as an entity wherever they are, which is different than a member signing a contract with MAPS.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question from Salman. Didn't we all make 1,000 payment already when we initially signed up for the lot? Mahmood, I'm going to ask you to answer.
Yes. I mean, they made the $1,000. The next step, according to your, the process as far that you laid out. So what we are doing now is all those who have paid, we won't collect $1,000. We'll make sure they sign the contract, because at that time we just got $1,000 as a deposit without giving the contract, right? So that money will be counted towards this, and you will pick an option whether you want to pay full or 1 to 4, and on that basis the contract will be framed.
So, Mahmood bhai, the clarification I need is the slide that Asar bhai shared.
Yeah.
There was that $1,000 listed, and then there's a cost of $8,000 like for one-time payment.
Yeah.
So is the cost actually $7,500 for the people who paid, or is that cost $8,500?
8,500, 1,000 you have already paid.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
7,500 is the
Okay. Thank you.
This question from Kishwar. How will MAPS keep the records for 100 years?
Kishwar, I think what we'll try to do right now is, 100 years, I don't know, but we have a organized plan of creating the database with the certificate number, with the stuff that you can carry, and it will get transitioned, as the leadership changes, as the organization shifts, so that data will go, I don't know, about 100 years, whatever the timing it is.
Yeah, I think the 100 years comes from the contract. So I think this is like, it's distributed that the contract needs to have a defined term.
End date.
So therefore, that's in there. I ask and offer Microsoft services in Azure to store our data there.
Enough right now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think it's a common problem for all of our assets, right? We are investing now in endowment,
Yeah.
which inshallah should go a lot beyond that. So inshallah, we should kind of institutionalize things in a way that, sort of can do a better job with record keeping and all.
Yeah, there's one thing that I will say in here. So there are 2 points that will need to come together to confirm that the lot assignment is correct, and so on. It is what's in MAPS records, and MAPS will keep those records in terms of who the authorized users are and how many lots do they have, and which specific lots do they have assignments on. So that's one data point. The other data point is the lot assignment certificates that the authorized users will have. So that document is important to keep safe, right? For how long it needs to be, right? If we, the folks who are acquiring them get to keep that for 100 years and don't need to use it for 100 years, more power to them. But chances are it's going to come into use much sooner than that.
Yeah, Brother Asfar, so maybe since you are talking about it, so what information Cedar Lawn has about the lot assignment, specific lot assignment, or is it like only kept with the maps?
It's only kept with maps. So maps, so Cedar Lawn is very specific, saying what they want to know is at the time of interment, who and which lot. And they will look to maps to provide that information. So from their perspective, maps is the purchaser for the 300 lots, but they only want to, and they want maps to run the process, right, in terms of managing and maintaining the records. And at time of interment saying, tell us who and which lot. All right, next question from Tariq. When you start to collect the payments?
So this was the meeting that we were doing to make sure everybody knows. So you can start making payments from tomorrow, because you can go from 10 to 5 as for the way you have laid the time, and Abdul Salam will be there to collect the payments, depending on the option what you have chosen.
All right, next question from Dr. Moad. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. How much are the credit card fees? So some is muted. Nasser, Mahmoud, can you guys answer that?
Yeah, I think the 2% or something is standard, whatever, we charge. I don't know the exact amount, but it is whatever we needed to pay to the credit card company is what we are going to charge over for using the credit card.
I believe in the payment option, it tells you.
Yeah.
So if you go through that exercise, I believe it tells you that. But if not, we can come back to you.
Yeah, we can come back with it.
Next question, Salman. Yes, why didn't we use Teams? Salman, if you pay me $1,000, next time we'll use Teams. Very easy solution for that one.
And that goes to MAPS donation.
Yeah.
All right. Next question, Samuha. Who administers the logistics to make sure each person that chose a lot is buried in the correct lot? So that will be done through the paperwork that we're tracking. So at the time the lot assignment is, that's why it's important to make sure that lot assignment is done much earlier than when actual burial happens. So that's gonna be in the MAPS record. So MAPS manages that, and it's going to be documented in the lot assignment certificate that the authorized user is going to have, so that they can be matched up to make sure that the right information comes through. Then at the time of burial, the interment certificate is going to say this individual signed by this authorized user in this specific lot. And that is the certificate that goes to Cedar Lawn, and then Cedar Lawn at that time digs up that specific lot number, and then the person that has been identified could be interned there. Next question. Can the person use it before the amount is fully paid off? No, the contract stipulates that before the burial can happen, the lot needs to be fully paid off. So if you are on an installment plan and the design is complete, the development is complete and burials are happening, and if the need arises, at that time, before the interment certificate is issued, the lot will have to be paid. Next question from Dr. Moad. What happens if death occurs before the lot installments are paid in full? I just answered that question. Next question from Tariq. I heard the plot can be transferred with some fees to MAPS. Is there a condition that has to be transferred to a Muslim person? So the contract says that the authorized user can initiate a transfer, and they can designate who they're transferring to. MAPS will review that transfer. The contract says that MAPS has first right of refusal to say, hey, we're going to take that transfer and pay you for it. Or can say it's okay to transfer to that person. The MAPS rules and regulations around that, I'm going to ask Mahmood to answer.
Yeah, I think this is very important, Tariq. You asked a question. This cemetery we were very lucky to get assigned Muslim only. So it has to be transferred to a Muslim only person. You cannot transfer this to a non-Muslim.
Yeah. And this question will come up at both times. It will come up if there is a transfer. It'll also come up at the time of interment. So if somebody comes and says, I need an interment certificate for somebody to be buried into the slot, MAPS will ask that question, who the person is and so on.
Yeah.
Just follow up, sorry to speak here, but
sure.
Is this by law? I mean, like somebody can come later and say, like, you don't have the rights to do that. I should be able to transfer it to anybody I want, right? I mean, I'm just worried about this. I mean, I want to ensure that everybody buried there would be Muslims.
Muslim, yes. I can, Tariq, what I will do is I will also check with Ayman, our contract, but I think the whole point like we have in Snohomish and all, right? We don't, when we identify areas which are for Muslim only, then we use that's for Muslim only area. So that's what we are, the whole point of getting this separate area and assignment and mapping it is only for Muslims. So I'll take a action to legally check it out, but that's the premise on which our contracts are and things that we are signing.
Yeah. And the way that the contract is written is that it's subject to MAPS approval.
Approval, yeah.
Right. So the transfer cannot happen without MAPS approval. And by the way, if somebody went to Cedar Lawn, Cedar Lawn will not accept it because the purchaser is MAPS.
MAPS, yeah.
So the only thing they will accept is the interment certificate coming from MAPS. Next question from Siraj. Can someone post the installment payments options again or on MAPS website? So this information is going to go on the MAPS website. We'll make sure that this slide deck is also shared out to the folks who attended in here. So you will have that. Next question. Can a family member not on the authorized user list be buried at the spot assigned to family? I believe I answered that question earlier when it came up in the context of parents. So if, just to kind of repeat that, if an interment request is made and the name of the person is not on the authorized users list, MAPS will ask the question and saying, who is this person? What is the relationship? And all. And if the relationship is family and all, then subject to MAPS policies, they will approve. If it is somebody else and all, they can decline, right? So it's up to MAPS to approve that time. The safest thing to do would be to have the folks that you're intending the lot to be for, to have them on the authorized user list. Next question from Nihal. Will Cedar Lawn be honoring the Islamic values in burial? So if someone does not want to have the headstone, is that possible?
Yeah, so can I ask for, I think that is possible if they don't want to have headstone, there is no compulsion on it, it's just the regular our grave. Honoring Islamic values, I think they are providing the space, the contract is there. I think we are the ones who are finishing, Islamic rites for the burial. So they do not interfere, they don't have anything in this particular space for us to do other than the maintenance of the lawn, that we can't plant trees, whatever that from the perspective of the aesthetics and the looks is what they will look after, not related to Islamic values,
Next question from Tarek. In the event of death, family should contact MAPS first for the approval. Who will contact the cedar management? Yeah, this goes back to the process that I described earlier. So in the event of a death, a family, somebody on the authorized user list will contact MAPS to say, I have the slot assignment certificate. There is a need for burial in the slot. Can you issue an interment certificate? That interment certificate is a piece of paper that will be issued to whoever is requesting. The person requesting it has to be on the authorized user list. So that MAPS knows that somebody just off the street is not coming in and saying that. Once you have that piece of paper goes to Cedar Lawn. Cedar Lawn will only acknowledge that piece of paper coming from MAPS. Separately, MAPS will also make a call to Cedar Lawn and saying, hey, for this lot number,
yes,
there is an interment certificate coming and this is the individual who's going to be buried in there. So Cedar Lawn will do the match. Here's a document and I got a call from MAPS, so we will allow that burial. So the answer to your direct answer to your question is the family will go to Cedar Lawn to say, I have this piece of paper that says this person can be buried there. So there is a responsibility on the family side to contact Cedar Lawn once they have that document from MAPS. Separately, MAPS, as part of this process, will call Cedar Lawn also, so the Cedar Lawn is able to do the mapping and know that this is a authorized request. Next question up. What happens after 100-year limit? There is a new contract.
Yeah, whoever is existing at that time will negotiate, will get the new contract done for that time.
This question should really go to Ayman.
Yeah.
To respond to this, but the term, yeah, the term limit is there. It's conceivable that anybody who's signing a contract right now, they would have utilized the rights.
Yeah.
By the way, the 100-year limit does not apply to the contract that MAPS has with Cedar, per my understanding, right? So it's not that after 100 years, some excavation is going to happen, right? So the 100-year term is defined in the MAPS contract with you, because there needs to be timelines.
Some time bound thing of it.
Next question from Nihal. Does Cedar Lawn get a copy of the contract with the individual? I'm going to assume that you mean the MAPS contract, and the answer is no.
Yeah.
Cedar Lawn, so from Cedar Lawn's perspective, the diagram that I put up earlier, Cedar Lawn has a contract with MAPS.
Yeah.
That's all that they know, that we have a contract with MAPS for these 300 lots. They don't have a contract with the individual or the authorized users. When the burial happens, at that time, because the transfer has happened, there will be an agreement with, not really an agreement, there will be the regulations that will apply. So Cedar Lawn will say, please agree to these regulations that are there. And that, by the way, those regulations are already distributed in your contract. So there isn't anything new that they're going to be doing at that time, unless the regulations have changed, right? So they won't see a contract between MAPS and you coming in here. All they will see is the interment certificate coming from you. And this is by their request, because they don't want to deal with the inner workings of MAPS. and they want to have the cleanliness of the relationships between the purchaser and the cemetery, and then have MAPS the ability to actually have a contract with its members. Next question, I'm going to skip over. Thank you, Kishore. Next question from Tarek. After signing the contract, in the future, can we add more authorized persons to the contract? I don't see why not. I think this is a MAPS policy thing as opposed to a contract thing. So, Mahmood, I think you need to opine on that.
Yeah, I think we didn't think about that, but I think that is doable. It takes a little bit more paperwork on our side from the management perspective, but that should be possible. And also I'll verify with Ayman, there shouldn't be anything. Probably you'll have to get a new contract, signed at that time.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be considered a transfer because the authorized users is it's additive.
Added,
yeah. If you come and say we're going to change all authorized users and all, that's a transfer.
Then there is a transfer. So anyway, in any case, in a transfer situation, we have to make a new contract. So,
but transfer have fees. I mean,
yes,
if you need to add authorized person.
Correct.
You need to pay more for that.
Yeah, and I think that's why I said this is a MAPS policy thing. I don't believe if you're adding another authorized user on it, this is not a transfer.
Yeah, it's not a transfer. It's just
so this is something that MAPS should be able to handle.
Yeah, you should be able to do that.
Next request to share this deck on MAPS website as well as through newsletter. Yeah, so I don't know if Brother Absalam is back or not. MAPS is going to put up a website with a bunch of content, frequently asked questions, and all. This deck is going to go up there, and other definition of the different terms and all. Will actually go up there. It's just process that's getting done. So
I think there will be a separate site on which all this information will be there, and in newsletter we could point a link to that particular site, so you have all of that information there.
Next from Ayaz, also there were some real good questions asked. If someone can pull those questions from the chat and create a fact, that would be great. Yes, there's a fact in the making. Great suggestion. We'll add these questions in there.
Yeah.
Next question, can the authorized user list be updated once the contract is signed? Answered that question already. Next question, honestly, we are all going to be dug up after 100 years. No, that was the clarity that I said that the 100-year stipulation in the MAPS contract is not about the burial 100 years. It's how long the validity of your right with MAPS is. And the expectations are that you will either transfer or utilize that rights within the 100 years, unless you live for another 100 years. Or decide not to use that right. From Hussam, could the lot be donated without transfer fee if a needy Muslim or family not on the authorized user needs it and could not afford it? Otherwise, can my authorized users be all Muslims on the plan? So multiple questions in here. I'm going to take this question, I'm going to parse this a little bit. Can the lot be donated without transfer fees? That by contract, the contract calls out a transfer fees. With MAPS a party to the contract, MAPS can decide, but waiving one aspect of the contract is really problematic. There are other ways of handling that. MAPS can decide to pay, somebody else can decide to pay, right? So contractually, the answer is no. Then the next question, can all Muslims on the planet be authorized users? The answer is no. We don't have the space on the paper, and it's going to be named individuals that when they show up to ask for internment certificate, unless you want to buy a lot and have anybody come up and say, I want that lot because all Muslims are listed and I'm a Muslim, right? So this is a contract. Right? This is a contract that you're signing. The authorized users are named individuals. if somebody decides to donate, you're still going to go through the contract. It's still going to be a transfer. It's still going to be approved by MAPS that the transfer is valid and all. So the cost of the $150 can be discussed in terms of like who pays for it and and how that comes through, but it doesn't change the contract. Next question from Ziad. The cemetery business is going down. What happens if the company maintaining the site goes bankrupt? So this is related to the MAPS and Cedar Lawn contract. Mahmood, you're on.
No, I mean, I think when they go bankrupt, then we'll follow, our share of whatever that space that we have, as per the bankruptcy laws, we'll be in that order of the priority of the things that they have to fulfill, right? So, we'll have to deal with that situation when the thing arises. Cedar Lawns is a pretty big company, not only here, they have presence in California, multiple states. So they are in a good business, but you never know, you're right. So if they bankrupt, then we'll follow the, whatever the bankruptcy rules are, who gets the first right through their property or asset selling, what liabilities they have, and we will be one of those into the mix of the thing.
Next question from Ziad. Can you put MAPS as another authorized user? MAPS is an entity that's a purchaser. It cannot be in a contract with itself.
Yeah.
So I'm no attorney, and Ayman is not in here, but my, I guess, educated response will be no. That looks to be the last of the questions, and we're about 10 minutes over our allocated time.
Yep, this was really great conversation.
So I'm going to stop the recording here.
Yeah, hope this was very useful for all of you. I think we have thanks to Asfar, who put a lot of thought in putting all of this together, and hope I mean, this is a very good thing, much needed for our community. So my main request, which I want to add is, I know we have many options, but we would request, because there is a payments that we would have to make to Cedar Lawn. So if you can avail option 1, which is the full payment, that would help us manage financially for MAPS. So, the other options are given for people, who need time and other stuff. So if you need, definitely use them. But first choice should be to pay in full, so that we can have that obligation met, because every few months we have to make the payments to Cedar Lawn. Good. Nasser, you want to answer?
Yeah, I did see another question come through, so we'll take one last question here. At MAPS, who's in charge for issuing the interment certificate? What are the ways to contact that person in case of family death? Nasser, I'm going to give you that question.
I think so. We have a current process, like, for when you request, God forbid some, death happens, and you call our funeral manager right now, you call a number, and that's Brother Suleiman's number, and he kind of guides you along with other steps the family has to do. So we'll just update that process. And eventually, inshallah, like we have further plans to enhance it and just provide a sort of a one-stop shop with a funeral director. As our community scales, we'll look into that. But for now, we'll just update our current plan. Yeah.
Right. So just to add to that, for now, manager at mapsredmond.org. Was Abdul Salam, Brother Abdul Salam, and his crew is behind that. So as you're requesting contract and all, you go there. When we get to interment, we will have the website that will have the contact information also. So if you want to, send out like queries, or if you have questions coming up, or you have a burial request, it will go. That information will become available through the website as well. So you will have that.
All right, inshallah ta'ala. So with that, we should end. Again, Jazakumullah khairan to Brother Asfar, Brother Khadir, and the team behind. It appeared to be a very straightforward thing, but there was a lot of work, and as you can see, the kind of questions came. A lot of things need to be worked out and specified. Alhamdulillah, we are getting it done. It's the first time, such a project, we are doing in learning, inshallah. So with that, inshallah, we'll end. Subhanakallah bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat. Wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum.